I wanted you to do the Happy Halloween, ladies. I can't do the tongue. Soundstripe. And welcome in to another episode of Blockbusters, a classic movie podcast where if you're like us and you miss the days of packed movie theaters and movie stores, and this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Caleb Suggs. Joining me are my co-host, Dakota Lowry.
What's up, everybody?
And Ernie Ferguson.
There can be only one.
Of all the movies, you never picked the most obvious quote, and this one...
That was pretty obvious, yeah.
I wanted you to do
the Happy Halloween, ladies. I can't do the tongue.
Oh man.
Well, see, what I haven't looked up is if that same scene, whenever he said it's better to burn out than fade away, I was wondering, did this come out before Def Leppard, or did Def Leppard come out before this when they sang that in their song, or where did it originate? So, I mean, and then
what was the answer?
I don't know. I didn't look at it because I forgot because I'm old.
Oh my gosh.
He said I had to look this up. Okay.
Excuse me. As you stated, we misword things. I needed to look this up.
What song is that again?
I'm looking it up.
I think it's Photograph by it's either Photograph or Pyromania by Def Leppard.
1983 was when Photograph came out.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like that came out before this movie. Well, this week we're doing Highlander, 1986's Highlander. This was my pick. Pretty unusual for me to pick a sort of cult classic movie in the initial real sense of a cult classic, not our movie ranking definition of a cult classic, but an actual cult classic, as in it bombed when it came out, just to put it bluntly. But over the years, it has gained a cult following. And, I was looking it up. I was looking at our little spreadsheet. Ernie, you should be proud. I was actually looking at the spreadsheet.
Oh, my goodness. You actually looked at the spreadsheet.
Wow. And basically, I mean, I looked at, my movies are very consistent. They all have, an average rating of, I don't think there's any below 7.75, but I only have, one above a 9. So they're all, in that 7.75 to 9 range.
Yeah, 908 is your highest.
I know I said the other day, I joked, I like good movies, but really what it boils down to is when I pick movies, I like to pick movies that I know my friends and Ernie are going to like. So,
wow, my friends and Ernie. That's nice.
Wow, really, really put us in our place here tonight, ain't it?
Wow.
That's a callback to when we were going to change the description to 3 friends, and Ernie was like, change it to 2 friends and
an old guy.
2 friends and an old guy.
Ernie couldn't decide if he wanted to be our friend or not, even though we let him on the podcast. But no, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just that how you have that thing where you want to be liked, but so for some reason I want my friends to like the movies I pick, so I don't like picking the obscure movies that I know are really not that good.
Okay, so you say that, and then we ended up with Major League.
Dude, Dakota, I get that you don't like it, but Major League is a very popular movie. I understand.
I just want my friends to like it.
I do, but obviously you didn't like it. That's okay. I mean, it is, but you're acting like it's some obscure piece of trash movie. Major League is a very popular movie. It grossed $75 million on a budget of $10 million. It was very successful and a popular movie. Just because you don't like it does not mean that it was some piece of trash.
So to take this and run with it a different direction, Dakota, what leads you to pick movies? Because, I mean, Caleb kind of gives you his kind of thoughts. Mine is most of the time I like to get something maybe y'all haven't seen or something to that effect. And I don't do that all the time, but that's kind of one of my major leading factors. Whenever you pick movies, other than, oh, my God, I have to pick a movie, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, I mean, what is?
That was one time. Okay.
I mean, so what's your leading factor in what makes you gravitate towards picking a movie?
So I generally go with I have like a genre of movie that I want to watch. Like I wanted to watch a rom-com, back. And so I was like, what rom-com can I pick that, and don't get me wrong, like I thought about 10 Things I Hate About You and a few things like that. But I was like, like that, and that's kind of where I ended up with Moonstruck, and it ended up with actors and things like that. Some of the movies, it's like, hey, I see this and I haven't watched it, like Tombstone. Everybody's told me to watch Tombstone and I've never watched it. So I was kind of feeling like watching a Western, even with like Superman, like I mentioned last time, that I wanted to watch a superhero movie. And that's simply what it boiled down to. Lost America is the exception, though. I was absolutely just going obscure for it.
That's what, So again, you were looking for that's not a specific genre, but you were.
Yeah, but I was looking for an obscure. I was looking for a specific thing. Yeah,
that's interesting that you go after genre. I like that idea.
But to reel it back in to Highlander, what we did this week. I mean, I did go out and actually pick a movie that I knew probably wasn't going to be very well received. But as Dakota said, my gamer tag is Highlander. It's been that way for 15 years. And
I think we watched learned a little bit about Suggs. We learned where he found the name of his son. We found where he got his gamer tag.
Where did we find the name of my son?
Russell Nash.
Oh, Nash. No. That's not where that came from. That's not where that came from.
It was in the back. It was in the subconscious of Caleb Suggs' brain.
No, because the gamer tag really came more from the TV show. But I like the movie too.
That was going to be my question for you.
The TV show was definitely.
Yes, the TV show was awesome.
Well, I texted Dakota today. I told him, I was like, the movie is basically a blueprint for the TV show that comes later, which is far better. Of course, it helps when you get a leading actor that can actually speak English and also act. So that helps too. But no, I mean, I think the TV show comes later. It takes obviously it takes the bare bones of the story and hashes it out and makes it better. And but yeah, so I mean, to kind of background a bit, my dad introduced me to this movie. I guess I was 13, maybe. I mean, young teenager, maybe 12. I don't know. As a kid, it's pretty, or a young teenager, it's got everything you want. I mean, it's got dudes fighting each other with swords as Queen music blares in the background. I mean, there's not much you can want. As an adult, though, I go back and watch and I was like, oh yeah, this movie's not that great.
Well, okay, so, and I'll be honest, I was tired last night when I was watching this movie, and so I did fall asleep when watching it. I went back and watched it, the parts that I had fell asleep through and I didn't remember. I went back and watched it today. However, while I was at work earlier, I was reading like a synopsis and I found the Highlander like wiki page, not the Wikipedia page, like a wiki page. And I was reading through the plot there. And let me tell you, I think the biggest issue that this movie has is it's too confusing to begin with.
Well, and you got that because I literally texted y'all multiple times. I was like, Dakota, if you have any questions while you're watching this, I was like, I wish we were watching this together, because as I was rewatching it, I'm used to it because I've watched the movies, I've watched the TV shows, so I know everything about the story and But as I was watching, I was like, man, there's a lot to, if you don't know what's going on, this can be really confusing.
Well, let me tell you what. So I was reading through the synopsis on the Wikipedia page, which does a very good job actually breaking down what takes place in the movie, and the wiki page organized the movie in chronological order. And I really feel like if they had taken this movie and put it in chronological order, it would have made so much more sense. And I feel like would probably have had a higher rating, if they had done that. Because if you take, there's what 20 minutes or so of the flashbacks to Scotland. that he goes through. If you take every bit of that and put that 20 minutes at the beginning of the movie, and then flash forward to New York in 1986 or 88 or whatever year this movie was placed in, I feel like this movie would be a lot less confusing and would make a lot more sense. You know, instead of I didn't really like the way that they did the whole flashbacks to his finding out of that he's a Highlander.
You say it got a higher rating. Shockingly, it has a 69% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I'm still trying to figure that out.
Thunder, but look, I think there are good things about it. Like I said, there's some bare bones things. There's good things that you can take, and they did that later, and they make the TV show and they hash it out, and it works good. The premise of it is cool. It's just the way they go about it is not, and plus the acting in it outside of Sean Connery is not great. Take that back. Clancy Brown's pretty good too. I like Clancy Brown, but Christopher Lambert is pretty rough. Of course, he barely spoke English, so
which is ironic since he was born in America. But the crazy thing that parts of it, like trying to figure out like the quickening. Okay, that's the lightning whenever you cut somebody's head off, right?
Yes.
So the gathering, I kept on waiting for a whole bunch of people to come together, and it was 3 dudes. You know,
you didn't even get all 3 dudes.
Yeah, it was just Kurgan and Duncan or whatever McLeod, whatever his name is. You know, I was like that was one of those things where I was like, it doesn't make sense. And I'm like, and how do you know when how do mortals just pop up?
There's again, as someone that knows the franchise, there's a lot of things in it like I know, but like for example, Connor McLeod is an immortal, but so you're probably thinking like, well, if he's immortal and they don't age, why is he an adult? Again, they don't explain that. They don't explain that the way you become immortal is if you die in sort of like I'm trying to think of what the word is, like you get murdered, you die die something that's not natural death, like you get killed in a way like that's how it works. So then that's when you become immortal. That's how it works.
You get killed by an immortal.
No. Like if you die like in a car crash or something that's not
like
a natural death.
Final Destination 14, the Highlander.
So like being immortal is kind of like inside of you, like you are it, but you're born and you grow old.
It's not activated.
Yeah, it's not activated unless you die in some sort of a rough way, like a car crash or being stabbed or being, But if you just go through life and you die of old age, you can do that. So that's why Connor McLeod is an adult, even though he's immortal. Like, again, that's just some things that they don't explain in the movie.
So again, how does Kurgan know that Connor McLeod is immortal before?
Okay,
Connor
that's
does?
another thing. They can sense that other people are immortal even if they haven't become immortal yet. And they can also sense when other mortals are around. See, there's a lot of things they don't go into in the movie, which again is why the TV show is way better.
They do with the immortals being around thing, but like first
they kind of did, and then you have that scene where Kurgan's kind of watching him, like stalking him. And it kind of like, how do you not notice he's there? But again,
it's still though. Like, how did he know he was going to be with the McLeods? Like, because he had partnered the McLeods. How did he had partnered with whatever this other rivaling group was, in order specifically because he knew there was an immortal with the McLeods and wanted to. Yeah,
that's just something that they just kind of threw in there. They don't really give any exposition to it. Look, at the end of the day, this is a 80s movie with a budget of $19 million. It's not.
Here's one issue that I had, that Kurgan loved all of Kurgan's outfits. Mm-hmm. They were unusual. Even Sean Connery's, Sanchez or whatever, I can't remember. He's got too many names. His outfit was cool. The other guy, I think Castigar or whatever, his outfit was cool. So you're going to give McLeod a trench coat and tennis shoes?
It's funny that
I'm like, just give him combat boots. Something like that. This is the guy you're focusing the story on. and you got one. He got a bad haircut. I mean, this is coming from a bald guy, so that should tell you something right there. But the trench coat with blue jeans and tennis shoes.
So sorry, I didn't mean to say that out loud.
It's funny that you mentioned that because as a teenager, and you have Duncan in the TV show who's the lead, and he's like really cool and he dresses really nice and like looks cool. But a teenage me loved for some reason the trench coat Connor McLeod. I don't know why, but I loved the trench coat. I love the trench. I don't know. I guess it's very New Yorkish. Maybe that's why.
No. There's not a single New Yorker out there that's going to wear a trench coat with blue jeans and tennis shoes. If you're wearing a trench coat in New York, no.
Maybe with Chuck Taylor's. I could see it with Chuck Taylor's, but that's probably about it.
Because if you're wearing a trench coat, and again, you're telling me he's been alive for how long, and you look at his house and how much money he's got, and he's got the worst pair of tennis shoes on known to man. I mean,
he doesn't like people to know he's rich.
He's an antiques dealer. I mean, come on now.
Well, Highlander is a 1986 fantasy action adventure film directed by Russell McKay from a screenplay by Gregory Whiten, Peter Bellwood, and Larry Ferguson. It stars Christopher Lambert, Roxanne Hart, Clancy Brown, and Sean Connery. The film chronicles the climax of an age-old war between immortal warriors depicted through interwoven past and present-day storylines. It is the first film in the Highlander franchise. Highlander was a commercial failure on its initial theatrical release, grossing only a little less than $13 million worldwide against a production budget of $19 million, while receiving mixed reviews. Nevertheless, it became a cult film and inspired several film sequels and television spin-offs. The rock band Queen recorded several songs for the soundtrack, with Princes of the Universe also used for the title sequence in the television series. The tagline, "There Can Be Only One," has carried on into pop culture. As I said earlier, it has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 69%. I think the fan score is higher, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
it's a cult film. I mean, it is what it is. People, it is growing. Yeah. I mean, there are people like me, and maybe everyone that likes this movie saw it when they were the same age as me, and they grew up liking the movie. But I mean, it has grown. But to go back though, I mentioned that Queen recorded several songs for the soundtrack. Man, Queen in this movie is awesome.
They knocked out of the park.
Opening sound. Of course, I've heard it so many times because it's of course I listen to Queen and it's in this movie, but it's also the title opening sequence for the TV show. So every episode you hear the song, but still, even after I've heard it, no telling how many times that opening, the "Here We Are," I love it. And they have a lot of great songs through this, which is funny because it doesn't even have this movie doesn't have an album or a soundtrack.
No, because Queen had an album coming out like a month or two after the movie, so they didn't want to dump all this new music and have competing albums against each other. So that's why it wasn't put out there. Which, if you listen to it going to another cult classic movie of
Flash
Gordon, the intro songs are like almost identical. I mean, the way they sound and everything like that, and that's 6 years apart, because I want to say Flash Gordon was 1980, and for me, the movie Iron Eagle, they have a song in that one that still will make me run through brick walls. But yeah, having their music spit out through other, like Kurgan putting the tape in while he's driving. Brenda, he puts the tape in and it's a Queen song that comes on. I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool.
Well, there's songs that, Princes of the Universe, the "Who Wants to Live Forever," I've listened to that I don't know how many times. That was big because of this movie. There was one in here that I haven't really listened to that much that I wanted to go back and listen to, the one that's playing when they're in the bar. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the quote you sent me earlier today, Suggs, about this movie was pretty good. The people hate Highlander because it's cheesy, bombastic, and absurd, and they love it for the same reasons.
It's a pretty good synopsis.
Yeah, it's right.
But
there.
Again, I feel like that's just you could probably say that about a lot of movies that have cult followings. Not Major League. Major League is not a cult movie.
No, it's not. No, it's not a cult movie. It has too much success at the box office to be a cult movie.
Touche.
Well, in 1984 New York, when leaving a wrestling match, Connor McLeod encounters an old enemy, Iman Fazil, in the parking garage in Madison Square Garden. After a sword duel, Connor beheads Fazil and triggers a powerful energy release known as the Quickening that affects the immediate surroundings, destroying many cars. After Connor hides a sword in the garage's ceiling, NYPD officers detain him for murder but later release him due to a lack of evidence. So we get the opening scene with the Queen song, and I don't think it was quite as long as Superman, but it was still probably pretty long. But it's okay because it's a Queen song. But then we get the what my dad said would be Ernie's favorite part of the movie was the wrestling.
He's not wrong.
With the fabulous Freebirds.
Fabulous Freebirds out there. Michael P.S. Hayes just coming down, strutting down the walkway. Yeah, that was pretty good. Even though it wasn't Madison Square Garden, but they did their best to try to make it Madison Square Garden.
But this opening scene, I think, as a kid or teenager, again, a kid, whatever, it depicted why I love this. The opening scene is incredibly stupid. I mean, it makes no sense, but it's so much freaking fun to watch. Just two dudes fighting with, first off, these two really cool swords. But it's just mindless action. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, why is he backflipping? I don't.
Oh my goodness, the back handsprings that man did.
Well,
he made
funny,
a cheerleader look bad.
The guy that's doing it, it's the stunt director for the movie. And they literally had him in there because he could do those backflips. So it's like, we want you to do these backflips. But it's so funny, even in the movie, you have Connor, he sees him doing it, and he's like, what the heck is he doing?
This is where you can tell how modern movies have gotten better, because Keanu Reeves in a John Wick-esque type movie, and you put a katana in his hand, the fighting sequences are going to be a lot better. The fighting sequences, any of the sword fight plays, didn't look good in this movie, and that's one of the disappointments, because I was looking forward to, the different. Like you said, the cool part is everybody has a different sword or a katana or something like that. That's one of the cool things. I like that, But just the sword fighting was not. It left a lot to be desired. And then whether sometimes there were sparks whenever two swords hit, sometimes there wasn't sparks when swords weren't hit. Non-electric cars started going off with electricity, even though there's not electrical currents. I mean, that's it was very interesting. A fight, I guess you would say, and grunting sounds.
Yeah, the fighting did it left a lot to wonder, but it's like I mentioned earlier. This is, you just kind of get an opening scene up here where you don't really understand a lot of what's going on. Mm-hmm. You don't, and don't get me wrong, some movies do this and they do a really good job at it. They'll have almost a teaser at the beginning of the movie that comes back into play later on. But I'm not sure of a lot of the movies that do that. To me, this movie didn't really do this good. So, I was kind of a little, like I said, kind of coming out the bat, kind of a little confused, and then all of a sudden, this guy gets decapitated, and this blue electric comes out of him, and all of a sudden, the guy's floating, and then just running away. And apparently, hiding your sword is just throwing it on top of water pops, and the top of the. I don't know. It didn't. The best thing about this was the Queen song, for sure.
Well, I think they're supposed. It's supposed to be. There's supposed to be a mystery. You're not supposed to at the beginning know what's going on. I think
and that
comes after is it still doesn't handle it well, because I feel like you're 75% of the way through the movie and still don't know exactly what's going on. I think that's where the issue is. I'm surprised you guys aren't bringing up the how they conceal their sword. Because this is something, even as a teenager, it always made me chuckle.
Yeah, okay, he's sitting at the wrestling matches. Where is the katana? Where is the sword at?
It's always in the trench coat.
Yeah, it's always in the trench. It's like I know what it is. But it's
not sheathed or anything. It's a complete.
Okay, so do y'all know who Mr. Gadget is?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not that young.
Tell me the Highlander isn't dressed like Mr. Gadget. Trench coat, the tennis shoes, and he's pulling a katana out of somewhere out of nowhere. All he needs is a little fedora hat that has a propeller coming out of it, and Connor McLeod is that character.
That it's always made me because it's not just like a Connor thing or in this movie. Even in the TV show, they'll like that they conceal their swords underneath their jackets and stuff. Like it's never made sense because I'm like, okay, even if you're wearing, because they would normally wear like the long coats or something, especially that you would see back in the 80s and 90s. So like I guess if you're standing up, you could make it make sense. But like even when they're sitting down, it's like, okay, would you not see the sword poking out? Especially because it's always unsheathed. Like it's not like they put it in a sheath. It's always like they take it out and it's like it's just there.
One thing for me that hurt, if you have this scene, the fighting scene, it is what it is, that's fine, but the police involved in this hurt the scene because one, why did they even stop Connor? Because I mean, there was no reason to stop him because nobody saw him. All he was doing was hauling butt out of there, which is his fault. But like the main police character, he trips over the body as he's walking to go see something, and then you have the cops just yelling and screaming at McLeod to get out. And then the police station, all the homophobic type of statements that he's saying, and it's one of those things where I know you have to introduce Brenda, and that's kind of Brenda's tie-in, but I think you still could have had a little bit more seriousness with the storyline if you wouldn't have had the Keystone Cops and Barney Fife out there, because I think that hurt it a little bit.
I think that's an issue in like especially like 80s movies.
Yes.
Not necessarily even just this movie where you have unserious police officers. I feel like that's something that's a problem that was rampant in the 80s and in the movies. Because you're right. I mean they don't do anything seriously. I mean, they're just handling evidence, willy-nilly.
Pretty flippantly.
And doing, just a bunch of stupid stuff.
And I like the movie trope of this lady's a forensic scientist who just happens to have a specialty in swords, and of course, Connor McLeod just happens to have her book that she wrote also. Wink, wink.
We're not even.
How much can you write about? What was it? Metallurgy. How much can you write in one book?
You'd be surprised. Have you ever seen the show Forged in Fire? You'd really be surprised. There's a lot about sword making, especially different time eras and stuff. But Dave, speaking of the sword,
it's half pictures, is what it is.
Yeah,
that's why it's so thick.
Did you see the one where it cut into the concrete barrier? Yes. It's something like fun, and the dude was just able to pull it out, like, and then the sword didn't break. That was the other thing that got me. Like, I don't know what's so special about this sword. But
it's been folded 200 times. What are you talking about? The sword is.
And as far as the pulling out part, now as Immortals, they do have slightly enhanced.
Well, yeah, I guess because they have the strength or whatever.
I mean, it's not like superhuman type, but I mean, it is slightly enhanced, strength and stuff. Because basically, again, maybe to answer, I don't know if you know this or not, but when they cut their heads off and it's the quickening, that's them gaining all their abilities. So like all their knowledge, any skill that they might have, they're gaining that. That's what the quickening is.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured it was. I was about to ask because I wasn't really quite certain.
I was about to ask the Highlander nerd also that same question, so I'm glad he answered that before.
And also, I'm sure you figured this part out, but the Highlander is not what the Immortals are called. That's just him.
He's just the Highlander because he's from the Scottish Highlands. Yes.
But you know what? That makes a lot of sense because I sure didn't put that together. Sure didn't.
Well, Connor's history is revealed through a series of flashbacks in the Scottish Highlands in 1536.
Look at that. Oh my goodness.
Connor fights against the rival Fraser clan as a warrior of the MacLeod clan. The Frasers are aided by an outlander warrior, the Kurgan, in exchange for his right to slay Connor. In battle, the Kurgan fatally stabs Connor but is driven off before he can behead him. Inexplicably, Connor makes a complete recovery, compelling his lover Kate and his cousin Dougal to accuse him of witchcraft. The clan wishes to kill him, but his other cousin, Chieftain Angus, mercifully exiles him. Connor quietly settles into a new life as a blacksmith and marries a woman named Heather MacDonald.
Blossom.
So, as you mentioned earlier, The movie, I mean, the movie does get a little bit all over the place because we have the opening scene in the car garage, and then we immediately go to 1536. So I mean, it's like, I mean, it doesn't really have like a good. I don't know if pacing's the word, transitioning, or maybe transitioning's the right term. But and then also you mentioned, I mean, you can kind of understand what's going on. I mean, it's Scotland. You know, you have two rival clans. They're just fighting. There's no telling why they're fighting. But I mean, I guess you kind of just glaze over it. But as you mentioned earlier, there's not a lot of exposition as to like why this is happening, why Kurgan is helping them. Obviously, as I said, they can sense other immortals even before they become immortal, but that doesn't explain how he would know that beforehand, like that he was a part of this clan or something. So yeah,
because
I mean,
he specifically named him out, and that's
yeah,
why
I mean, so
Connor was like, "Fight
because,
me,
yeah,
fight me."
Yeah, so that doesn't really make a lot of sense. And then talk about his family. I mean, they were very quick to turn on him. Here's my thing: I get that witchcraft and stuff was like big back then. Like people would, you know, he's got the devil in him. We have to burn him. I know that was a thing back then. But if he got stabbed and magically survived, and they thought he was going to die and magically came out of it, couldn't that have easily been a work of God as it could have been the work of the devil?
Well, for me at that point in time, you're probably talking about a pagan society, anyways, where they're talking about, you know, dwarfs or you know, sprites and things like that. You know, so I was like, I don't think John Knox has brought Presbyterianism to the Scottish at that point in time either.
Is it the day thing? Like, you know, so Jesus, he dies, he's gone for 3 days, comes back. So that's like a work, you know. So if he's only gone for a day, is that why it's the work of the devil? Like he should have been dead 3 days, maybe.
Well, I don't know. Hey, then the Marine at the very end of the movie should have been a witch too, because he got straight up impaled by
Yes,
Kurgan, and he's still
That dude's
alive.
diaphragm is not working.
I mean, I'm like, I mean, that's a bigger deal to me than what McLeod got. You know, it's well, I think it's like anything else at that time. Something that can't be explained is witchcraft. That's you know, that's the easiest way to get him with the what cattle collar or whatever that was on him and sent away. How he got out of that, that's the bigger question for me, because he was just walking around with it, and so eventually he got out.
That's
of it.
why he got into blacksmithing.
There you go, and found Blossom. And I tell you what, they taught him how to say "I" in Scottish over and over and over again. I lass, I blossom.
Man, he was so mad. He was like, nobody can fight. First of all, if you're in a war, why is it? It's almost like you're trying to make a date. Like, hey, me and you 1-on-1, we're gonna fight. Like, if nobody's trying to fight you, why aren't you just hacking them anyway? Because they're fighting your family. Like, just go up and hack one of them. No, but then he finally does get does get to fight, which I understand Kurgan's an immortal and he has obviously skills and stuff, but I mean, he raises his sword and just gets stabbed.
Nope.
His fighting skills were not great.
Also, this was a time period before pictures. How did any of them know who Connor McLeod was? That was my other big thing, was like, you've got all these soldiers right here, and they're going to tell me they all know who Connor McLeod is.
I get, you know, Scotland, obviously, I don't feel like Scotland's that big a country. You know, their rival clans, I don't know, I guess you could make it believable. Maybe they knew who Connor was beforehand, but there's not a lot of exposition, to your point, to that. I mean, it's just like, hey, not him. You know, they're all running away from him. But this is also the time when, you know, and this Wikipedia page is kind of like the movie. It just kind of jumps all over the place. But they do flash back to the present. He's in the police station, and we did get one of my favorite lines where he puts the sword on the table and he said, "All right, what's that?" He says, "A sword."
You know, so simple explanations to stuff.
Yeah, the whole Lord, I've completely lost where I was going.
Kind of like the movie.
Oh, yeah, I know. I think back to your point earlier about the whole why couldn't have been a work of Jesus's. I don't know. Maybe there wasn't a miracle worker there or something. It's the only thing I could think. Maybe.
Well, I mean, I don't. That's really more of just like I feel like that was maybe I don't know. I don't know as much about this time period, but I know obviously back in the day, witchcraft, the devil's work, that was something that was seen, and they would burn them at the stake or something or whatever. But my question is like, why couldn't it have been like a miracle, like a good miracle? Why does it have to be evil?
But then it wouldn't play
just
into
doesn't
the
make
movie
sense
plot.
to me. That's really more of an overall history question as opposed not just this movie.
Yeah. So is this the scene where he goes back to the interview room, or was that already?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. The police station where they come in and they put the sword down on the table.
Yeah. Also, I think it's funny that they kind of made fun of his accent, even in the interview session. Like, you've got a really weird accent. Where are you from? And he's just like all over the place. I come from a lot of places.
Bro, you could tell it was the 86 though. He asked him if he was the I'm not gonna say it, but the F word.
Oh, that again. That's that whole time. That whole again. That whole entire homophobic cop routine right there.
Man, they went through everything because you had his Vietnamese neighbor ate his dog. I mean,
his dog.
They went through racism, homophobia. I mean, they went through it all in this movie.
Yep.
Well, Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez, a swordsman from Spain, finds Connor after tracking the Kurgan to Scotland. He explains that he and Connor and the Kurgan are others like them were born immortals and are destined to battle each other, save on holy ground. Under the overriding belief of all immortals, in the end there can be only one. The few who shall be left will be drawn to a faraway land for the gathering. The faraway land, in this case, being New York City.
New York City.
The final battle for the prize, the power of all the immortals through time. Ramirez reveals that immortals cannot have children and believes they must ensure evil people like the Kurgan do not win the prize, or else humanity will suffer an eternity of darkness. So this is probably where you get the best parts of the movie, because you obviously have Sean Connery, who is by far the best actor in the movie.
Yeah, you get the Spanish Egyptian.
Yeah. I don't know who the best actor is in this movie is, to be honest.
It's either him or Clancy Brown.
I like Clancy Brown's portrayal better.
I will tell you this.
Sean Connery's up there, but I like Clancy Brown a little better.
All right. Marlon Brando got a whole bunch of money for a little bit of time. Sean Connery, 1 week, $1 million. That's what he got that's what he got paid to do this movie. They had to film all of his scenes in 7 days, and I don't want to watch. I want to watch something else to cleanse my palate of him. Because it's one of those things where almost every single line seemed like it was dubbed over. And it just, I guess that's that after thing. But it was very hard because I thought I was a very big Sean Connery fan, but it was hard watching Connery in this, to be honest. I don't know. I didn't like Connery in this at all.
Yeah, this is where they introduced the Spanish character from Egypt who fights with a Japanese sword.
Yes.
Sword.
Well, again, I mean, I think that's
perfect. That's a perfect example of being
because
immortal.
he's been alive for 2,000 years, so he's Egyptian. He's from Spain. He has a sword because, like you said, he was married with one of his
Scottish accent.
One of his 3 wives. So I mean, that's just them trying to explain this. This is someone that's been alive a long time. And then we get kind of like an 80s training montage.
Yes, 100%. Was this before or after he drowned, or he didn't drown, and he was laughing underwater and running underwater?
This was before. I think the next paragraph is the training montage.
Again, my biggest thing, they did not do a good job of explaining what the quickening was.
No. Or the gathering. I mean, neither one of them. And those are 2 things. I think you could have taken a lot of this out of it and seen more battles between immortals to show the quickening, and then show like the memories and stuff like that of what you gained from the other immortals, and then tell me exactly what in the world the gathering is, other than some like electric dragons coming out of people or into you or something like that. That's one of those things where for a story that you're making up and you have the lore, I mean, dive into the lore.
Yeah, they don't do a good job with that. Again, that's something where I feel like the TV show shines a lot more. Because again, I mean, this is so it's actually like considered a game. That's what they basically call it. It's a game. I mean, the Immortals, they're playing the game, and at the end you win the prize, which is and
the prize is you get to grow old.
I mean, and have children.
Well, I think at this point they didn't really know what the prize was. I mean, they're just kind of. But and there's rules to it and stuff. Like they don't fight each other on holy ground. That's a rule, and they didn't really. I mean, they just kind of glossed over it. I mean, he kind of mentioned it, but they didn't really go into anything. I mean, and there's other rules too, and they just don't go very in depth in it at all.
So it's very John Wickish.
Kinda, yeah.
Because Kurgan desecrates his wife that he finds out about later, and then he went on his rampage, and then he can't in someplace holy. You can't. That's like the Continental. So there is that, and then of course, then you add in the Rocky montage too, training montage with it. So and wrestling.
Very 80s. Well, Ramirez trains Connor and the two become friends. One night while Connor is away, the Kurgan finds his home and duels Ramirez before decapitating him and leaving. Years later, Heather dies of old age. Swearing never to love again, Connor wanders the earth, adopting Ramirez's katana as his own. So we get the fight scene between him and Kurgan. Again, y'all don't seem to like the fight scenes. That's okay. But I still do, even as I'm older. I still enjoy them.
That one was probably one of probably the best fight. Again, the background is the background, but I thought it was one of the better fights because I liked the part where Sanchez, almost cuts Kurgan's head off, so that explains that scar there, but that was the one fight that I did actually like. I liked that one.
Yeah, I think it did a really good job in this one to kind of displaying their strength also, like the kind of the picking up the strength of the other Immortals when they're just basically destroying an entire building or house around them. I mean, the special effects or the
it's not
practical
great.
effects aren't great.
You can tell they're like rigged to the walls like rigged to like fall down at a certain point. It's not great. It looks more like a play. Like it would work well in a play, the effects for something like live action that you would see on Broadway or something. But yeah, the practical effects are not great.
Yeah.
But why is the oldest guy in the movie the one that looked the best sword fighting? I mean, Sean Connery, this was better than Sean Connery's acting. His sword fighting, it looked as close to, I guess, real as you can in this movie. And I was impressed.
Well, did he have training? I don't know Connery's. I can't think of all the. I mean, I know he was James Bond, and I know he has other movies that I've seen him in, but I can't think.
He's probably had. I mean,
I'm sure he had some kind of training up to that point. Whereas
Lambert probably did not, because
I don't think any of them did. Let's be honest with you. I mean, I'll be honest. A lot of these sword fights, like a lot of the sword fights, me and my brother had with styrofoam nurse swords when we were kids. Okay,
I didn't want to say that. Y'all have to admit though that katana is very nice.
Yeah,
the katana is. I'm not saying it isn't.
No, again, and I like the rapier.
I meant to bring this up earlier and I forgot. I meant to talk about it. But that katana is a very nice. That and the one from the TV show, they're kind of similar, but they look a little bit different. They've always been. My dad actually used to have replicas of them, and then he sold them. So
probably a wise move. They don't want to have kids and have a katana in their hands. That'd be bad.
Yeah.
But what happened to the McLeod sword?
He puts it in the grave for Heather's grave.
Yeah, Heather's grave.
Okay. I missed that
like
then.
The headstone.
Gotcha. Okay, I missed that.
So it's kind of like him leaving the McLeod life behind, or the Scottish life behind, to go wander.
Swearing off love and all that.
And picking up dead children's names.
I think if we're being realistic, though, he's probably like, this sword is way nicer than mine.
It's been folded 200 times as opposed to the 10 that the other one had.
Well, shoot, the handle by itself is what I would just go. Even if the sword part wasn't nice, I would just take the handle. I'll go find myself a good sword to put in it.
Well, just like Kurgan's sword. Oh, I got to bring he got the briefcase out. He opens it up and assembles it in 37 different parts.
Yeah, I don't. it looks cool while he's doing it because
Yes.
you get that whole scene in the hotel room with him. Like, it looks cool, but it's like, okay, would this not fall apart easily?
Yeah. If he's swinging hard enough for them to be able to knock down buildings and knock down the sign or whatever it was there at the end of the movie, like it's easily going to fall apart. Now, explains how he can hide it in a trench coat. To give him 10 seconds to assemble it before he starts fighting.
I gotta put the sword together.
It's like Daredevil. That's what he just folds it up and just puts it in his pocket because it's again 205 folds that the katana has.
It's got the string that goes through it. You have to pull it apart and fold it
He puts it all together, and then little spikes come out in the handle.
That presses the button and the spikes come out.
That seems very 1536-ish.
I never used it. I was waiting for him to use it. I never used it.
It's just there for looks.
Yeah.
But in 1985, the time of the gathering approaches, and the Kurgan is compelled to come to New York City, where Connor now lives as an antique dealer under the alias Russell Nash, working with his confidant and adopted daughter, Rachel Ellenstein. Brenda Wyatt, a metallurgy expert working for the police as a forensic scientist, finds shards of Connor's sword at Fazil's death scene and is puzzled they come from a Japanese sword dated around 600 BC, but made with medieval era methods. Brenda witnesses the Kurgan attack Connor before police arrive, forcing him to flee. She meets with Connor twice afterward, hoping to learn about the paradoxical sword. Connor likes her, but tells her to leave him alone. So this Wikipedia, the way it's kind of like what you were saying, Dakota, like if you had ordered the movie, because we had the opening scene, then they go through we go through all the stuff in the Scotland, and now we've jumped back to present day.
Yeah. Forgive me here. I'm trying to remember. I remember a lot of this happening, but I'm kind of confused, I think.
Yeah, just the whole entire the whole entire Brenda part where, they meet it he sees her, he goes back and gets his sword. He sees her, getting all the evidence and finding that out. Then, him having her book and reading the book, then she follows him, and then what I thought was the interesting part was Rachel, with in the World War II where
it's so random.
Whatever you say, Jack. Ha 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 ha. You're the master race.
I mean, there's that part whenever he adopts the little girl, which is kind of weird, but whatever. It is what it is.
He just takes her with him, leaves Germany, and goes back to America with her.
Well, I mean, it's 1940. That's what the mortals do. They wander all over the world. I just, a lot of people have some issues because, he adopts the daughter, and they think, later you get kind of like some scenes with them where I guess you could portray it as intimate. I never saw it that way.
But I for sure did. I for sure thought that they were intimate.
I see it. I never saw it that way.
I think she wanted to, but he.
Yeah. There was a time when he kissed her on the cheek that I for sure thought he was going in for an actual kiss.
I just always thought this scene was kind of random. Like, why? I didn't understand why she necessarily needed to be added to this. She didn't really add anything to it.
I guess just having an assistant who understood.
Because look, it's the 80s. Well, any scene where we go back and we kill some Nazis is always going to be something that's well received. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really make any sense why it needed to be added.
Because, here's one of the things is that sometimes movies think their audiences are stupid, and so Rachel was there to tell us that he is living a lonely life, that he can still, enjoy love and stuff like that, because that's what she kind of tells him. Even though we can kind of watch that on our own, even though it's been told to us twice, one by Sanchez and then once and the opposite by Rachel, So that's where, again, there are some movies that think their audience is smart and they don't explain things to them and they let you figure it out on your own. And then other times you get told stuff, and that's the only thing I can think of as far as Rachel, the purpose of Rachel, to be honest.
Okay, so I think this kind of skims through a lot in this. Isn't this where you have the whole bar scene?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
where he follows her into the bar.
Yeah, where he's wearing his gloves in the bar. Also, he just loves those red gloves.
You ever get over to the garden, where she just came from? So that's not stalkish. And then he's like, "I'd like to walk you home, Brenda."
man, he's
Good.
that has creep 101 right there, you know. And then that's when she sees him fighting Kurgan, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
the chopper comes out of
The
nowhere.
random police off
The
helicopter.
random police chopper just comes up. I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, it's not like there's gunfire going on where it's like they're on a rooftop fighting with swords. Like, it's not like, why would a random police helicopter just be there?
Yeah.
we were tracking him.
I mean, yeah, I guess maybe that is the reason they were following him. But why are they doing that with a police helicopter? I don't know. But
Well, they did have a police officer outside of her apartment. You
yeah,
know?
I mean, tailing someone in a car is one thing, but like, why is there a helicopter there?
Because
And why did Kurgan? I mean, okay, I guess Kurgan, you're immortal, but you're not. It's not like you're some Superman or something. So I guess you don't want to get caught because then you just live an immortal life behind bars. Maybe that's.
Well, I mean, you get shot, it still hurts and all that kind of stuff too. So I mean.
Well, meanwhile, the Kurgan, I love it. It's the Kurgan, not Kurgan. The Kurgan duels and beheads Sunda Castagir, another immortal. However, the Kurgan leaves a witness behind who describes him as the killer, concentrated the NYPD's search on him. Brenda investigates Connor and finds evidence that he has lived for centuries. On Heather's birthday, Connor lights a candle for her in a church, as he has done every year. The Kurgan arrives and confirms that he and Connor are now the last remaining immortals, and also reveals he raped Heather after killing Ramirez. Disgusted but prohibited from fighting on holy ground, Connor leaves.
This Wikipedia page gives way too much grace to this movie because her investigation was that she found out that he's just impersonating a 2-minute-old child. I mean that's the investigation.
You had the handwriting.
Okay, let's be fair though. This is
too.
1985. I feel like it would have been a lot tougher to find out this stuff than it would be in 2025.
Yes, but I mean, being able to identify the handwriting samples through the Apple IIe's that they were using right then too was that was classic. You know, good investigating technology at that time.
And I also think, and we kind of glanced over this part, the scene with Connor and Castagir on the bridge, where he's like, "Oh, well, this is where the gathering is going to take place."
Yeah.
You know, in my mind, I'm kind of like, "Oh, okay, you're in whatever park this is. Is this Madison Square Gardens?
This is
right
Central
here?
Park.
Central Park. Okay,
I even wrote
Madison
down
Square
the gathering in Central
I had no
Park.
idea where it was. So in Central Park, yeah, I'm sitting there like, okay, the fight's going to happen here. There's going to be a bunch of immortals, and there's going to be a huge, there's going to be a huge LARPing ceremony in the middle of here, and there's going to be one winner.
That is a perfect description of this movie, LARPing. That's what that is.
Yeah, but at the same time, this is where we get that flashback scene, which again makes no sense why it was included in the movie. But it's still absolutely hilarious with him that duel and I guess England or whatever.
Oh yeah, the last time he got drunk. Yeah, the last time they had a party.
Makes me laugh every time I hear it.
And the guy shot the guy running away. I don't even understand why that. I was like, that makes any sense.
That part
he had
where
to kill somebody
away
that
and
day.
Connor's just behind him, and he's like that laugh, and he's like, it makes me laugh every time. But again, I don't know why that scene is in that movie. But yeah, so this is where we taught the Kurgan duels and beheads Sunday. We get the Marine, which is Ernie's favorite part of the movie.
He gets impaled by that huge sword after just unloading rounds and rounds. And then whenever he's in the hospital, he talks about all the ammo that he had in his car too. I'm like, man, that's Dakota right there. If he was going after the Kurgan,
man, he was getting it too. He was going from cover to cover. He's like, come on.
He was looking for it. He stopped that car. He rewound. He backed up and saw it. And then he just got stuck by that sword. And then, of course, the funny thing is when the Kurgan steals the other car and he's laughing at the old lady or whatever, and then they see him peeling out, and somehow she's on the hood of the car. I don't know how she was on the hood of the car.
Who is she calling daddy?
She,
you know how old people sometimes call each other mama and daddy or whatever that. Not like that, but but she was just on the hood of the car. I'm like, what?
Well, because he cut the top of the car off.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
made
she's,
it convertible
standing
out of
up,
it.
And I guess she goes over the top. I don't know.
No,
But-
because in one of the scenes you look, he only cut the driver's side. He only opened up the driver's side. He didn't. The passenger side was still laid down, and it was just like folded over like a can of tuna.
Because the Kurgan is 7 foot tall and needs headroom.
Yeah,
Well,
that
he
was a
is
small car though. He was extremely
Clancy
close
Brown
to
is
the steering wheel.
6'4". I didn't realize he was that tall.
Yeah, but they made him look a lot taller than
Oh
that.
yeah,
dude.
they did. They
definitely
did with the
did.
camera work. They definitely made him. But I was thinking. I mean, I knew they did that with the camera work, but I was not thinking he was that tall. But I mean, what would your honest reaction be though if you're just driving down the street and you see like two dudes just going at it with like swords? Like, what would you know?
Not stopping.
Nowadays, not stopping at all.
100% not stopping. I'm gone. Bye. Y'all do you. I'm gone. I'm out of here.
I mean, I can't say that.
Oh, I know what you would do. Again, you would be the
No, I'm
Marine.
not. I am not going to be the Marine.
You lie. 100%. You open up the trunk of your car and pull out whatever stuff you have for whenever the zombie apocalypse comes, and you
Dakota's the
just start
Punisher.
unloading lead on people.
No. I will say I have seen people LARPing in Delano Park in Decatur, and they would look about what you would expect LARPers to look like, and I just walked on by, just didn't say a thing. They were out there with the sword fights, and I just kept walking. I corrected myself, Suggs. I heard you.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, look, don't judge. You remember that time we were in downtown Huntsville, and you were like, let's just stop here so I can play this Pokemon Go. And then all these people started coming down on us like it was the dang children of the corn. Like they just like appeared out of nowhere.
Hey, two of those people
Pokemon goers.
Two of those people were actually from Germany. It was really cool. You get to meet a lot of fun people playing Pokemon Go.
Well, Brenda confronts Connor, who explains his true identity. After spending the night together, they part company, but the Kurgan finds out about their newfound intimacy and kidnaps Brenda to draw Connor out. Connor decides to leave behind the Russell Nash identity, says goodbye to Rachel, and confronts the Kurgan at Silver Cup Studios in Queens, rescuing Brenda in the process. After a long duel, Connor outfights and decapitates the Kurgan, absorbing his massive power and winning the ultimate prize. Connor returns to Scotland with Brenda and reveals that he is now a mortal man who can age and have children. He is also now able to read the thoughts and feelings of people all around the world. And remembering Ramirez's lessons, he hopes to encourage cooperation, understanding, and peace among humanity.
So, this guy's at a church, and you get this, which we didn't even talk about this scene with Kurgan in the church, and just
Or too busy
how
talking
sleazy.
about LARPing.
Yeah, and how sleazy he really was in this scene. I think this was really the scene where he kind of shined as a
Yeah. And
as
what
a
did he
bad
say?
guy.
So what did he say, Suggs, in the church?
Huh? Happy
What-
Halloween, ladies. I can't do the tongue thing.
Yeah.
Well, this is also when he sits down and he's like cut all his hair off, and he's like, I'm in disguise.
yeah, that was his disguise. Just shave his head.
Except for that one strip. He had one strip of hair. That
Yeah. Was it a strip or was it a tattoo? Yeah, it was
he had a
yeah.
tattoo, but there was one strip of
he
hair.
did have like
Yeah.
one little strip of hair left. It's like I have to keep this.
I missed a spot.
So this guy looks at Connor and says, "Hey, you remember 400 years ago? I killed Ramirez, and then I did unsavory things to his wife. And then whatever. She never told him about this. So Connor, who is understandably upset, I mean, rightfully so. I get it. Okay, leaves the church, goes back home to find Brenda, and says, "You know what? It's on, buddy." and I don't understand. Like, he's going. Is it just a grief response? Is it a coping mechanism? Like, what's going on here?
Well, I
It's
mean,
80s.
he
You have
finds
to have a
out
gratuitous sex scene,
Yes.
followed by lions roaring. There was I was like, you got to
No,
be kidding.
let's go before the sex scene. Let's start with talking. What kickstarts the sex scene? She stabs him,
Oh yeah,
because he forced
I thought
her
he
to.
stabbed himself.
Well,
Well,
he's holding her
handed her the
hand and he
knife,
forces her to stab him, so she understands that he's immortal. And then then they get it on. I mean, that's like the Kickstarter. I mean, that's what it is. Like, oh my goodness, I could stab you.
Oh my
Think
goodness.
about all the kinky stuff.
Hubba,
God.
We can-
Hubba.
And
Yeah.
you have the sword that's been folded 200 times too.
I mean, look, let's be honest. She's turned on at this point because
Oh, yeah.
he's brought her in this that room where he has all this stuff that he's accumulated over his years. I mean, she's
hot and
ready to give it away.
Yeah, she was hot and ready to give it away. I mean,
Rawr.
I don't know. I didn't get it from his standpoint,
From his
especially with
standpoint?
especially with it.
So you find out. I mean, first of all, you have to fight anyways because it's the gathering. Then they're the only two left.
And they did,
But
even though they didn't get an invitation to it.
He finds out that he raped his wife from many years ago, his last true love, because he hasn't loved since. And then he's also got he now has love since, and he's got that woman. So I mean, that's easy to understand why he goes after him. I mean, they're going to fight anyways because it's the gathering. But at least now he has
Gathering.
now he has reason to. I guess I feel like the movie tries to say it because you mentioned like why is he randomly talking about what happened 400 years ago. I don't know if the movie they try to make it seem like there wasn't a ton of immortals, which again is funny as someone who's watched the TV show because that completely backtracks when they make the TV show because there's like a different immortal each episode.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's the vibe they were going for, where there wasn't necessarily a lot of them. So maybe that's why.
Maybe
that's why it's taken.
You only see 4 in this movie, don't you?
They have to
5.
4.
No, 5 because you get the one he kills at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
No, you're right. 5, counting Connery.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't.
But this is the part of the movie also where it starts to have kind of a horror movie feel to it. Because again, the Kurgan's haircut, just the way he was acting, and then whenever he kidnapped Brenda, and I'm so glad she passed out from screaming because, dear heavens, she screamed and screamed and screamed some more, and I was just glad when she passed out. But just that's kind of the feel that you got, and this is where again, kind of like what Dakota said earlier, I thought they were headed to Central Park. Because that's where I thought the gathering was going to take place.
The gathering is just New York City. That's
we know that now.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing, but but then it sends up. So we have this horror scene that's followed up by this bad music video scene, which is kind of what the fight scene kind of felt like a bad music video.
Oh, you talking about when they fell into the building?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Had you had actual like decent swordplay there, that'd have been a really cool scene.
Yes, but it wasn't.
But it wasn't good. It wasn't good swordplay.
No
sword play.
It's like
I didn't say nothing.
I know you haven't said anything all episode, but I heard you grunt earlier when I said it.
I can't look. I mean. He said, he's got the Southern drawl. He says things a little, but that's okay. But the one thing I can't stand when people say sword. It makes my skin crawl every time.
You knew what you were getting into picking this movie.
I've literally was thinking about it a lot today. I was like, I have picked this movie. I'm gonna have to hear Dakota say sword. Like, there's no telling how many times.
Don't forget, you also picked The Legend of Zorro, also, which had swords in it too.
I have to make sacrifices because I do love my sword movies.
You love sword fighting.
But you also get when he finally absorbs this power, or this quickening takes place after he decapitates the Kurgan. You get all the I don't know, the graffiti like going into. I didn't really understand what all the different animals or whatever it was were.
I just think that the people that wrote this, like, they had an idea in their head, but they didn't take enough time to hash it out. And again, as I said earlier, it gets hashed out later in other stuff that comes later, but it seems half-baked in this.
It seems like they were half-baked.
No, that's possible too.
It was probably all hopped up on cocaine like everybody in the 80s was.
Yeah. But you understand what I'm saying? Like there's an idea, but they just didn't seem to really mesh it out and kind of go. Like there's like they didn't believe in the details. Like here's our idea, let's just go with it. We're not going to really go into the details of it.
Yeah, they had a broad idea, but didn't, like you said, that's probably the best example is a broad idea, which again, the idea of the movie and the Highlander and the Immortals is, it has legs, as you can tell with the TV show. But in this movie, they were losing themselves in following like 37 different ideas and not like just making it simpler to be able to follow.
Yeah, it was poorly executed. Very poorly executed.
It happens. All right, so that brings us to the end of the movie. Do you guys got anything to add before we go on to our rankings?
Before we end this up, you know who would end up at the gathering being the only one? There can only be one, right? Nino Brown would have taken both out at once, and this world would be a better place if Nino Brown was the only mortal left. Just saying.
I already had to listen to my dad because we didn't bring up Nino Brown last week. So he was like, y'all didn't mention.
We did too.
Or maybe
we did too.
He mentioned
we
something
did in Superman. I don't think we did in Superman.
No, not in Superman, but yeah, we talked about dropping him into Berlin.
Okay, well, I can't remember what he said something to me about Nino Brown the other night because I just don't hear enough about it on this podcast.
That's where you get deaf real fast. That selective hearing kicks in when Nino Brown's brought in.
Yeah, it's he's trained himself. He's Pavloved himself, or his ears just shut off immediately when he hears the name.
All right, you ready to go on to rankings?
Yeah, let's go on to rankings.
Sure.
Dakota, kick us off.
All right. Well, like I mentioned earlier, I think removing. I understand that this movie, the idea was taken and fleshed out later and was done very well later on. Okay, I get that and understand that, but taking that aside and looking just simply at the movie itself, and especially in today's society in 2025, I don't really think the movie holds up that well. I really do think this is kind of a pretty good definition of a cult classic. But I think this movie would have done a lot better. Like I've mentioned before, I think this movie would have done a whole lot better had they had maybe opened the movie up with the scene of him fighting the other immortal in the garage in New York at first, then going into his entire backstory instead of trying to do the whole flashbacks thing. Because I think you lose a lot of people and you get confused a lot in that whole being in New York and being back and being in New York and being back. And if you would just cut it all out, go through the backstory, and then move on into New York in 1985 or 6 or whenever it was, I think this movie would have done a lot better. Because it clears up a lot of the issues, it clears up some of the issues. Let me say that, and it helps out. That being said, even past that, even if they did that, I don't really think that this was that great of a movie. Like you said, the acting wasn't very good. Connor was just dead face, no emotion the entire time, and there was just the acting just wasn't really that great, in my opinion. So I think I'm going to give it a 6.5.
Ernie?
I'm coming in with a hot take. A really hot take. Lost in America was better than this. Because here's why. Because at least there was acting in that movie. There is no acting in this movie that is remotely good. Even Clancy Brown at his best. Lost in the plot. Lost in America had a plot. You all might not have liked the plot. You might have not liked the way it was executed, but there was a plot and it reflected the time period of the time, political statements, stuff like this. This was just if you've never seen the TV show Mystery Science Theater 3000, Highlander should be on that. But this is more entertaining than Lost in America. It's not very entertaining to me, but it's not as good a movie, but it is a little more entertaining. But for me, this was a snooze fest, to be honest, and I give it a 4.5.
Yeah, I think obviously it's hard for me to be unbiased because this is something from my childhood, and no matter how much I can realize it's not that great of a movie, it's still something that I'm going to love. That being said, it's not a great movie. I realize that. I mean, it's the true definition of a cult classic. It's bombed at the box office, and it's grown a cult following over the year. But I think the good things about it, I think y'all are a little harsh on the sword play. It's 1985 or 86 when this movie comes out. I mean, I can't think of another movie around this time. I mean, I didn't think the sword fighting in it was any worse or better than some of we got in Star Wars at around this time. And so I think y'all are. That's just my opinion. I think y'all are a little harsh. I'm not saying it was.
Yeah, but at least I understood Star Wars.
You haven't.
And that was also 8 years prior too.
I'm talking about Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi too. Right. So that's 80 and 83. So it's around the same time period. And I'm not saying it's as good as what we got in Star Wars. I'm just saying I didn't think. I just think it's the 80s. I feel like if you're looking at it from some of the stuff we've got in movies nowadays, yeah, it doesn't hold up. But I think in 1986 it wasn't that bad. But I thought it was fun and entertaining, as you said. Queen is fantastic in this. I don't know what their thing was for doing not very great movie, bad sci-fi movies in the 80s, but hey, they make it work. And I think the biggest thing is this gives you a little bit of a blueprint, as I said, for the awesome TV show that we get later. And without this movie, we don't get that TV show, and it's one of my favorite TV shows. But I'm gonna give it a. What did I give Buckaroo Banzai?
You gave it a 7.5.
Yeah.
I'll give this a 7.25. I would watch this again over Buckaroo Banzai, but I grew up watching this. So, but
I would watch Clancy Brown and Buckaroo Banzai before I watch Clancy Brown and Highlander.
Well, all right. So a 7.25. Hold on, I put 7.5. A 7.25, a 6.5, and a 4.5 averages out to 6.08. Ernie, where does it put us?
That puts it at number 42. It's above Lost in America, but below Jumanji.
All right, and if you'd like to see the full rankings list, you can go to our website, which is podpage.com/classicblockbusters. That's podpage.com/classicblockbusters. You can get our full rankings list on there, as well as our episodes and a bunch of other stuff. Ernie does that, and we appreciate that. You can go on our Facebook page, Blockbusters, a classic movie podcast. We also are on Twitter, or X as it's now called, whichever you want to call it, at BlockbusterPod1. Find us on there, streaming on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and YouTube when we remember to put it on there. Dakota, it is your pick next.
So, but I will say this before I move on to what we were saying. I really do recommend, if anybody does choose to watch this movie and doesn't really understand what's going on, go to the Fandom Wiki and read the plot on there, because it organizes it in chronological order, and it helped me understand this movie so much better than I did before.
Ask me questions.
You shouldn't have to ask questions to watch.
I'm being honest with you. When I'm asleep, it's kind of hard to ask questions.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to, but if you have them, why not ask me? I probably could give you a lot better information than Wiki could.
Hey, the Wiki did a great job of helping me understand everything. It broke down the plot a lot better than what the Wikipedia page does.
We went through this podcast and I still had to explain some stuff.
No, I had to remember where we were, okay? All right, getting on to the movie that we're going to do this week. Thanks for helping me stall a little bit better. We'll go with this one. Okay. No, it's not bad. All right, so I realized that we had not done a Robert De Niro movie either.
Yes, we have. We did Goodfellas.
Goodfellas. That's what it was.
Oh, you just
I
screwed
was
his
try-
whole entire thinking up right there.
It's fine. I am still in a more of a drama and like serious mindset with Saving Private Ryan being last week, and I do kind of want to watch something that's more historical, and having Sean Connery in it, and taking that I've
Oh, I
only
know
seen
where
a
he's
few
going
movies
with
with him.
this.
I want to do The Untouchables.
Hmm.
I watched that just a couple months ago, actually. I'm gonna be honest with you, because again, let's go back through this while we do this podcast. He has not seen a lot of these movies pre 2000.
haven't.
I really thought he was about to pick The Godfather, and we were gonna have to sit here and tell them that Robert De Niro is not in the first Godfather.
No, I wasn't about to do The Godfather.
That's where I thought he was going with it when he was like drama, and I was but all right. So The Untouchables, Kevin Costner.
Kevin
Costner, Sean Connery. Robert De Niro's in it. Like I said, I was kind of feeling a crime movie.
Sort of. But we'll get more into that later.
Like I said, I've never seen it. So,
By the way, this is also Highlander was our first matinee category movie.
oh,
Well,
A forgotten category that we've never had before. So.
we kind of threw the categories out.
Yeah, but you know,
we still have the Blockbuster. If it's 9 or higher, it's a certified Blockbuster. But the rest of the categories, we just kind of threw those out.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know that if this movie was a matinee, I would go watch it. Okay, like,
but yet you did a 6.5 on it.
oh, I mean, it really is. It really is a cut
Can,
classic.
my heart can't take anymore. Can we not trash it anymore?
Hey, look. At least you like the movie. At least the movie that we trashed with me, I don't even care for. I rated it a 3.2. Okay, like,
I'm trying to figure out what's going to be worse, this one or Masters of the Universe. Whenever I pick that one, that's good. I feel like y'all will enjoy Masters of the Universe better, but it's not a great movie either.
Dolph Lundgren's English is better.
No. All right, so the Untouchables next week. That's what we'll be doing. Guys, anything to add before we're done?
Nah, let's have a good week.
All right.